Hi there, Ian Simon again, just going through into chapter 1 of the double program. The previous two videos were about the prologue. I split the prologue in half and gone through that. So if you missed it, please go back and listen to the prologue. But this is now going into chapter 1. Okay, it's all about James and a small group of young people who would get recruited by the British government to help fight the rising tide of terrorism, particularly during the 1980s, which is where this book is set. Okay, so here we go, chapter 1. What the hell are we going to do, Tom? James implored his friend. My whole life is turning to shit so fast it's making my head spin. I know what you mean, Tom replied. I'm out of options. I can't even get into a decent uni. He had considered going through the UCAS clearing system, but his heart just wasn't in it. His A-level results had further dented his self-esteem, and he couldn't visualise himself accepting a place on an unknown course in a third-rate university. Disappointment and despair hung like a wet blanket around the shoulders of the two boys. Life had always been so full of opportunities, and the future had always seemed, so possible. Now, though, they felt boxed in. Instead of shaping their lives and forging a path, they were stuck in it like innocent bystanders in their own lives. It seems like the years of planning for their shared futures had gone down the drain. The weather outside Tom's bedroom seemed to reflect their mood. Hard, pellet-like drops of rain smashed into the glass with an endless rat-a-tat-tat, the drumbeat to the soundtrack of their mood. Tom looked at his friend. He could see the helplessness in his downcast eyes. He wanted to help alleviate the torture he was feeling. For months, all he talked about was escaping to Nottingham and the wondrous things they would do when they left their dreary existence behind. Now that bubble had burst. There was nothing left except for the empty despair dancing across James's distraught face. Finally, desperate to break the silence, he said, My mum's heard about a new apprenticeship starting up for electronic engineers. His voice didn't hold any conviction. He knew his friend's heart had been set on going to university, and this was not the path either of them had planned. But in their current situation, he wanted to hold on to some semblance of control over his own destiny. To Tom's surprise, James's head spun round. Oh yeah, he said. Yeah, Tom affirmed, excited that James was showing an interest. It's based out of the Central Steelworks. It's a new incentive to modernise the industry. He added, keeping his voice fairly non-committal in case he didn't interest his friend. But James responded with a surprising amount of enthusiasm. What did your mum say? How did she find it out? Tom could see the old James was trying to emerge from under the blanket of despair, and he was relieved. My mum's best friend Karen is married to one of the managers in the Central Works, and they went to the pub for a girls' night out a few days ago. They talked about my results, and Karen told my mum about the new scheme that's starting. Her husband has got something to do with it, but my mum didn't find out what. James thought about his friend's words. He knew many of the steelworkers. They were coming to the pub, and he'd even got friendly with some of them while working behind the bar to give his mum a rest. Finally he said, I know a few guys from the plant, but I've never heard of an electronic engineer apprenticeship. What's it all about? Tom didn't miss a beat. His confidence was growing. They've never done it before. Apparently, they've been spending a lot of money on contractors because no one at the plant has got the correct skills to fix some of the machines. They're investing in some new equipment, and the control systems for them are all electronic. There's a machine called a continuous caster coming online, and no one knows how to work on it. What's a continuous caster? James asked. I have no bloody idea. They both laughed. All this came from two women chatting over a couple of gins, so I don't even know if the name's correct. But the point is that someone at the steelworks has realised that they're entering the 80s and they don't have the skill force they need. A bit bloody late, James laughed again, his mood considerably lighter. British Steel, the nationalised UK steel company, which ran the Central Steelworks, had been in trouble for many years. the behemoth organisation had become hugely inefficient and had struggled to modernise in the face of trade union resistance. The problems had been caused primarily by a game of political ping-pong between the two major parties. The Labour government, funded in no small part by the trade union movement, had brought the steel industry into public ownership in the late 1940s. This had then been reversed by the Conservative government in 1952, who put it back into private ownership before it was renationalised once again by Labour in 1967, whose goals were to keep employment high. At that point, the steel industry directly employed 300,000 workers, and all the supporting businesses generated thousands more jobs. Most plants were in deprived areas, so any pretense of industrial efficiency was sacrificed to keep them open, with the unions fighting to maintain high levels of employment and consequently high numbers of union members. It was easy to lay the blame at the feet of the Labour government, but in truth the political games of both parties had led to a spiralling disintegration as the plants were overmanned and little meaningful investment had been made to modernise the industry. That all changed with Thatcher, who decided she was going to shake things up, ultimately leading to an almighty bust-up with the trade unions. Her plans were to reprivatise several industries, including the steel industry, and she made no secret of the fact that her plans would lead to large-scale job losses and plant closures. While this was hurting the historical job-for-life mentality of some working men, it wasn't all bad news. The Central Steelworks was a blot on the landscape, belching out pollution and covering the area in a depressing cloud of filth. The waterways nearby were a toxic no-go zone that even the hardiest fish couldn't survive in. It was far away from the green and pleasant land that William Blake had written about as humanly imaginable. The people who worked at the plant, while grateful for the money, were also being killed by their work. Industrial accidents and debilitating illnesses were far more common than the media would ever let on, and safety standards were far from satisfactory. Tom and James didn't know or care much about global politics or trade union disputes. Rather, they were looking for a way out of the troubled waters they found themselves in. They talked further, considering the merits and potential pitfalls of the opportunity. James knew that the only easy route to a senior job was through a good degree from a respected university, but that option was off the table for now. So why not an apprenticeship? We need to look into this a bit more, Tom, he said finally. It sounds pretty good. Thank you for listening. That's the end of chapter 1. I'm going to move on to chapter 2 in the next video. But if you enjoyed this video, please read the write-up below and leave a like if you can, and subscribe to listen to more videos. I've also put the link in where you can buy the novel on Amazon. It's only 99 cents, so it's not overly expensive. Okay, thanks for listening. I hope to see you on the next video.